In just 47 seconds, one question about Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein detonated the biggest FBI scandal in modern history. Former federal prosecutor Dan Goldman didn't expect the FBI director to collapse this badly. Kash Patel didn't expect his legal excuses to be systematically destroyed on live television. Cameras captured every moment of panic. What did Goldman reveal that made America's top law enforcement official refuse to answer a simple yes or no question? December 9th, 2024, 2:56 p.m. room 2141 of the Rayburn House office building. The House Judiciary Committee chamber buzzed with electric tension. FBI Director Kash Patel sat at the witness table, his dark suit immaculate, his FBI badge gleaming under harsh fluorescent lights. For nearly an hour, he had deflected questions with bureaucratic precision. But in the next 47 seconds, everything would change. Across from him sat Congressman Dan Goldman, the former federal prosecutor who had spent a decade dismantling white-collar criminals and organized crime networks. His wire-rimmed glasses reflected the chamber lights as he arranged documents with surgical precision. Goldman had prosecuted cases that other attorneys wouldn't touch. Today, he was preparing to expose the biggest cover-up in federal law enforcement history. At exactly 2:56 p.m., Goldman's turn arrived. Director Patel, Goldman began, his voice carrying measured authority. I want to ask you about the Jeffrey Epstein files. Currently in FBI custody, the room's temperature seemed to drop. Reporters stopped typing. Camera operators adjusted focus. Even the court stenographer looked up. Patel leaned forward, his expression still confident. Congressman Goldman, I'm happy to discuss general policies regarding evidence management within appropriate legal boundaries. The answer was textbook bureaucratic deflection. Carefully crafted to sound responsive while revealing nothing. But Goldman hadn't spent 10 years as a federal prosecutor without learning how to dismantle such evasions. Does Donald Trump appear anywhere in the Jeffrey Epstein files currently in FBI possession? The question hit like a thunderbolt. Direct, unambiguous, impossible to deflect. Every camera zoomed in on Patel's face as he processed the political landmine. His jaw tightened. The confident expression flickered. 4 seconds of silence followed. 4 seconds that felt like an eternity. Patel's knuckles turned white, gripping the witness table. I'm sorry, could you say that again? The stall was transparent, buying time. He didn't have. Goldman's response was surgical, delivering the question again with even more precision. It's not a complicated question, Director. Does Donald Trump appear anywhere in the Epstein files? Patel's evasion was immediate and revealing. I didn't say it was a complicated question. I just didn't hear you. But Goldman wasn't a typical congressman who could be deflected. He was a federal prosecutor who had spent years breaking down criminal conspiracies. And he pressed forward with relentless precision. We have released where President Trump's name is in the Epstein files and everybody else. Patel finally responded, his voice slightly strained. All credible information that we are legally allowed to release has been released. The phrase legally allowed was about to become his downfall. Goldman immediately recognized the legal deflection strategy and moved to destroy it systematically. So let's go through that, Goldman replied, leaning into his microphone. You're referring to court orders that prohibit you from releasing grand jury testimony under Rule 6E. Is that what you're referring to when you say as the law allows? Patel nodded, not realizing he was walking deeper into Goldman's trap. That's a piece of it. The admission was critical. Goldman had just gotten the FBI director to commit to specific legal justifications that could be dismantled. Really? What other evidence do those 3 court orders you cited prohibit from being released? Goldman's voice carried confidence. Patel responded carefully, information that was collected pursuant to those search warrants in limited fashion. The answer sounded technical, authoritative. It was also completely false, wrong. The single word cut through the chamber like a blade. That is not what the court order says, and that is not under 6E. Goldman's prosecutorial authority was devastating. He wasn't guessing. He had reviewed the actual court orders, understood the actual legal constraints, and was now publicly exposing the FBI director's misrepresentations as fraudulent excuses rather than legitimate legal limitations. The systematic destruction continued. Goldman shifted to the most explosive evidence, the videos. Your testimony here is that the reason why you're not releasing all of the videos that you've acknowledged the FBI spent thousands of hours reviewing. You're saying that you're not releasing those because there's a court order requiring them to be sealed. Is that your testimony? Patel's defensive response was immediate. Never said that about the videos. The overwhelming majority of that video is pornographic material downloaded from the internet and child sexual abuse material. We will never release that. The deflection was designed to make Goldman look like he was demanding release of abuse material. But Goldman had prosecuted these exact cases. Well, as you should not release the victims, Goldman replied calmly. But if there are videos that relate to others who Epstein trafficked to, such as maybe Prince Andrew, or photographs that you have total control to release. The Prince Andrew reference was calculated brilliance. Everyone knew about the royal scandal. Goldman was forcing Patel to either admit such evidence existed or claim ignorance. Yes, and if it exists, Patel began. So why haven't you released it? Goldman interrupted. Patel's response was stunning. Why are you supposing that that is a fact, when in fact it is false? Goldman had caught him. Are you saying that none of the videos relate to anything relevant to the Jeffrey Epstein trafficking? The FBI director's answer would define this hearing. Every single video that we have collected pursuant to the prior search warrants has been examined for the last 10 years, and every single video has been utilized for whatever prosecutions were able to be legally brought. But Goldman wasn't asking about prosecutions. He was asking about transparency. I'm not asking about prosecutions, Goldman shot back. I'm asking about why you aren't releasing the full Epstein files, including the names of people who were involved in the sex ring that you promised to do before you became FBI director. The reference to Patel's PRE appointment promises was devastating. Before taking office, Patel had publicly advocated for transparency. Now he was hiding behind the same legal excuses he had previously criticized. Patel's frustration was becoming visible. I just told you I'm not going to release downloaded porn. Goldman's response was immediate. I'm not asking about that. Fine. I'm asking about all the other files. What other videos? The exchange was heating as Goldman pressed for specifics and Patel retreated into defensive deflections. Finally, Goldman forced the ultimate admission. There is nothing that is related to any other people engaged with Epstein in underage sex. That is correct? Patel paused, then added the qualifier that destroyed his credibility. To my knowledge, no, to my knowledge. The phrase hung in the air like smoke from a fired gun. In legal circles, it's the classic hedge used when someone wants plausible deniability. Goldman recognized it immediately and shifted his attack. If Patel didn't actually know what was in the files, how could he assure Congress that nothing relevant existed? Let's talk about the witness interviews, Goldman continued, moving to FBI 302 forms interview documentation not subject to grand jury secrecy. 302S of witness interviews. Those are not subject to the court order. Those are not subject to any fictional sealed order. Why aren't you releasing those with redacted victim names? Patel fell back on his standard deflection, now sounding increasingly desperate. We are releasing as much as legally allowed. Goldman wasn't buying the excuse he had already dismantled. How is that not legally allowed? Patel's response revealed growing frustration. Sir, do you know how court orders work? Do you know how protective orders work? Then came the moment that would be replayed millions of times. Goldman played his credential card with devastating effect. Actually, Mr. Patel, I was a real prosecutor for 10 years. I know exactly how Patel's interruption was telling. So I was a fake prosecutor? The fake prosecutor comment was a self-inflicted wound. Patel had essentially admitted his prosecutorial experience wasn't comparable to Goldman's, that he felt threatened, that he knew his legal arguments were being destroyed by someone who actually understood federal prosecution. Goldman methodically continued, unfazed, I want to understand what the court order prevents you from releasing witness statements that the FBI took. Goldman's voice carried authority. You should know that as a real prosecutor, when the court hands down a protective order and a motion to seal, the material is sealed. Unless your testimony is that all those witness statements are under a court order or protective order. Patel's deflection was weaker now. We are providing everything we can legally provide, but Goldman's persistence was relentless. No, that's not my question. My question is, why are those witness statements that are not grand jury testimony, that if they were under a protective order are no longer under one, why are they not being released? The legal trap was complete. Goldman had systematically eliminated every legal justification Patel offered, exposing them as convenient excuses rather than legitimate constraints. The FBI director sat at the witness table, sweat now visible on his forehead, his carefully constructed defenses in ruins. Why are you not going to the court like you did for the grand jury testimony to unseal those records? Goldman pressed. Patel's final deflection was weak. The DOJ did go to the court. Goldman's response was immediate. Not on those records. Why aren't you going? The FBI director had no answer. No legal justification. He sat in silence. Then came the moment that would echo across every news network. Committee Chairman Jim Jordan interrupted. Time of the gentleman has expired, but Goldman wasn't finished. As his time ran out, he delivered the accusation that would define this hearing. You are hiding the Epstein files, Jordan repeated. Time of the gentleman has expired, but Goldman's final words would echo through American politics. You are part of the cover-up. The accusation hung in the air like a nuclear detonation. The FBI director had just been publicly accused of participating in a cover-up by a former federal prosecutor with impeccable credentials. Patel's attempt to respond was desperate. Can I respond? The chairman nodded reluctantly. Any allegation that I am part of a cover-up to protect child sexual trafficking is patently and categorically false, but the damage was done. The visual was devastating. An FBI director stammering defensive denials after being systematically destroyed. The social media explosion was immediate. Within 5 minutes, Epstein cover-up was trending worldwide, accumulating over 3.2 million mentions in the first hour. Goldman destroys Patel reached #1. TikTok videos of the confrontation were viewed tens of millions of times. Cable news networks interrupted regular programming. CNN's legal analyst called it the most devastating congressional questioning of an FBI director in modern history. Fox News defended an FBI director who appeared to be hiding information about Trump. MSNBC analyzed Goldman's prosecutorial technique and Patel's legal vulnerabilities. International reaction was explosive. British media focused on Prince Andrew references. The Guardian ran FBI director denies evidence against royal. The Daily Mail's coverage reached 47 million views in 24 hours. European intelligence officials privately expressed concerns about sharing information with an FBI, concealing evidence. Legal experts noted the significance. When someone with Goldman's prosecutorial background says the legal excuses don't hold up, that carries enormous weight, noted a former DOJ official. He's prosecuted these exact cases. He knows when someone is hiding behind fake legal constraints. Most significantly, the hearing exposed the central fraud. For years, Americans were told legal constraints prevented transparency. Goldman methodically proved those constraints were largely fictional, convenient excuses deployed to protect powerful people. The FBI director's inability to justify withholding evidence destroyed the official explanation. Epstein's victims watched with vindication. Virginia Giuffa tweeted, "Finally, someone asked the right questions. Thank you, Dan Goldman." Sarah Ransom added, "This is what accountability looks like." Goldman's 47-second question accomplished what years of conspiracy theories could not. It forced an FBI director to either admit evidence about powerful people existed and was being hidden, or claim ignorance about files under his control. Either answer was devastating.